In this Winning with Sketchup video, we're going to explore a little further some techniques for tree modeling in Sketchup. And specifically, we're going to look at how to create the quad-based junctions between different sets of branches or between the branches and, say, the trunk of a tree. And these techniques would be beneficial in other areas, not just in modeling things like trees, but a tree is a very good example to illustrate what we're trying to talk about. So to get started, I'm just going to draw the trunk of a tree here. And I'm going to start with an octagon. So this is the circle tool set to 8 sides here, and I'm going to draw this out about 2.5 feet. So we have a 5-foot diameter tree here. And what I'm going to do is just pull this up. I want to measure this segment here, and that's 1 foot, roughly 11 inches. So I'm going to pull this up on the blue axis, 1 foot and 11 inches, and bring that up. So this is allowing us to be relatively square with each one of these quads that we're creating for the tree trunk itself. So let's delete these interfaces, or the outer faces of the top and the bottom here. And I'm going to just unsoften this, and we're going to pull this up and snap it and make roughly 25 copies here. So we'll type 25x, and this is going to represent just the rough trunk of our tree here. So now let's talk about how to create the branches coming out. And first, let's just check the tree here and put it in a group, and we're going to run SUbD, and that will go ahead and subdivide that. Turn off hidden geometry. We can see that our 8-sided octagon has been smoothed out, subdivided, and with a couple different levels of subdivision there, we have a perfect circle, and we can get in later and do some sculpting and things with that. But for now, let's remove the subdivision, go all the way back down, and get inside of our group here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work with the Draw Along plugin from Frito, and we're going to start picking some of these quads to represent the branching that we're looking for. So with Draw Along, and the beautiful thing with this tool is that it will find the center of each one of these quads, and that's what we want to do. We want to start the edge that's going to represent the branch from the center of one of these quads. So let's start here, and we're going to come out, and it's always best, not absolutely necessary, but it's always best if we come out perpendicular to this face. And Draw Along has a nice inference, and you can see that turning that orange color along normal to face, and that's letting us know that we're parallel. So even if we're going to go up with our branch, it's always good to come out perpendicular to the normal direction of that face, so we're 90 degrees to the surface. And this will allow us, when we do that lofting operation, for things to hit square with the tree, and we'll have better alignment and better subdivision, reduce the chance of pinching then. So the next thing we want to do is let's set up a direction over here, and we're going to set up a work plane using Draw Along. And what we can do is we either hover over a face and do a long left click, which will activate this work plane, or the faster way is to just use the Enter key. So any face here that we hover over, you can see that we are getting that work plane. And if we hover over the center point, sometimes we will you see we're getting a blue plane, which is allowing us to just draw pretty much straight out from this initial edge that we drew. What we're going to do is we're going to snap it over here. I'm going to hit return, and we're going to get this work plane here, and that's just going to allow us to draw kind of a collinear edge here. So it's going to it'll put the plane right in the middle here of this set of faces. So we can come out here, and let's just make a bunch of clicks, come out, and it's going to be our first branch there. And we can just pay attention to the size of our work plane here, and I'm snapping to something, a remote point down there, so I'm just going to turn that, toggle that off there. And to exit the tool, we just double click, and now we could go in and make another branch here. And again, we'll start from the center, come out a little piece there and snap to there. And while we're doing this, we can change now in mid operation the angle that we're drawing, so we can take this from being a collinear set of edges here, and we're going to change that and add a little variance here. And we can see what that's doing is it's drawing over this way. So now we can snap back here, and you can see now our branch has some curvature to it, and that might be a little bit too much. So what we can do is just get in here and either use vertex tools or just the standard select and move, and just kind of realign this a little bit. And we can move these points around, grab a section and move that around, deselect everything and then move these points here. And that looks pretty good for that one. Let's just draw one or two more of these quickly here. And I'm just going to go through and do one here. And see how we're snapping here to these other branches. A good thing with draw along is we can turn off inferencing. So now we're not getting any snapping here to anything, and allows it to draw a little more unencumbered. So there we have a branch there, and let's just draw one out over here. So I'm just going to hit escape here, and let's turn back on our inferencing, and you can do that with the Alt key as well. You can toggle that on and off. So we turn that back on. Now we're just going to draw out here, make sure our inferencing is on, get that first initial edge there. Now we can set our work plane, and I'm just going to come up here. And I generally will draw things collinear and then come back and either do some sculpting with Artisan or vertex tools to change them there. So we can go around and just continue to draw here. And now we're going to look at what we want to do, and I'm just going to mark the top of this. I want to rotate this set of edges here, and I'm just going to grab that, and let's rotate that over here. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to group all of these quads which are being intersected by each one of these sets of edges that we drew. Okay, and we can see those are a little darker around there, so we know which ones they are. And now we're going to go through, and I'm going to use perpendicular face tools here from Chris Fulmer, and I'm just going to quickly grab the square and set that to we can set that to 1 inch for now, and just click on the ends of each one of these edges. And now what I want to do, I'm going to measure here, and this is, remember that was that 1 feet 11 inches. I'm going to go to BZ Convert here, and I'm going to go to Polyline Divider, and I'm going to do 1 foot and 11 inches here. I'm just going to divide each one of these up with Polyline Divider, or Polyline Divider here allows you to enter a measured increment. And we can see here, I'll turn on vertex tools, and we can see that these have now been evenly divided by an increment that's about the same as the starting point here. So now all we're going to do is go in, select the square here. We can drag select right to left the square here and grab the set of edges as well. And now we'll run Curvy Loft. And we're going to just change the method to offset. Say OK. And we're going to go through and do all of these quickly. Change our method, accept it. And the last one here. I think that one's missing the, there we go, a square on the end. Now we can get in here and I'm going to select all of these. And I'm going to use quad face tools here and just toggle this unsmooth quad faces here. Which will unsoften these edges, and I'm going to grab this section here and we can reverse those faces. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in here and actually just click select each one of these, and I'm going to cut them, so Control X. Now I want to get in here and I'm going to delete all of this that we created. And now I'll paste those back in place. And now I can explode all of these. And delete that top face there. And now I'm going to turn on SUbD and take a look at these. You can see we have good, clean junctions there. And let's turn it up a level. There we go. So let's take it back down and turn it off SUbD. And there's a few things you can do at this point. I just wanted to mention here, if you want to add secondary branching here, do the exact same thing. Sometimes you might want to go smaller than this quad that we have here, and if that's the case, on these areas they're always going to be triangulated, and we can see we have that. So what we can do here is we can draw our edge. There's a couple things we can do. If you don't have vertex tools, then we can do it this way. The easiest way is with vertex tools, and then we can just use the make planar option, and now we can delete that triangle in the middle, and now we can go and just do the method again. Or if this is too wide here, we can also offset this, get in here and we can, let's say, draw a rotated rectangle here. We can use tools on surface and mark the center point here. TIG has a good plugin called Add Center Point All, which will mark the center point. And we could get in here with tools on surface and snap there to the guide point and come out here and draw a square there. And all we have to do is make sure that we connect these ends here. And now we can draw out from this point and use draw along, and let's bring out maybe a plane here this direction, so we're drawing up, following kind of the direction here of the branch. And the one thing we didn't do is come off and kind of look for that that inference there. Let me delete that edge and see if I can get it. That we come off perpendicular here to this face, and there we go. Now we can draw across here and snap that. So we just do the same thing. We're going to grab that and group it. And if we want, we can divide this up here. It's about a foot. So we can go polyline divider. It's 11 inches there. And then we're going to throw that perpendicular face tool square there on the end. Select all the edges and both end groups there. And then let's go curvy loft here. Change our method. Accept that. And we're going to get in here. We'll just unsoften that. And I'm going to reverse those faces there. And again, the method I use is I just cut it, delete that extra, and paste it back, explode it. And I got a little bit of an issue here. I forgot to group it before I erased that here. So let's delete that face, paste that back, and now so we're having some issues here. There's some faces inside, and I'm just going to get into X-ray mode here and take a look. And the first thing I usually try when that happens is there's a plugin from Wiki called Remove Interfaces. So I'll run that, deselect or select everything and run that. Now I'll try to do SUbD again. Still not working. So then I'll usually use Solid Inspector from TomTom, and that'll let me know there's an issue, a nested instance somewhere. So it's up here, I think. I didn't delete that other group there. So I can get in there and just grab the group in the center, delete that. And now we should be good to go ahead and run SUbD. And there we see we got the branching there. So the other thing I was saying, if we didn't have, because these aren't coplanar here, these edges, if we wanted to get in and draw one, we didn't have Artisan or Vertex tools to make that planar. We could get in here. Let's just use draw along, turn on hidden geometry, and just kind of grab the center here, the midpoint of that triangulated edge. And let's get in here. There we go. And let's draw up here in this direction. Something like that. Now what we could do is actually want to make sure that we come out here and try to get that to line up there. So if you have an issue, sometimes you can use this tool from Frito, but it's going to create two construction guides here, one on either side, and we can use those to mark perpendicular as well. And sometimes if you just hover over those, you can come out or just grab those and pull a line out into the middle. And now we can start out, make sure we're perpendicular, and then come up and snap there. And I'm just going to deselect that and move that endpoint over just a little bit and delete those guides. So now what we can do is just use the perpendicular face tools here, and you see that's only 1.5 feet. So we want to set this to let's go maybe 8 inches, and we can click there, and we can click back just a little bit right there, And then we can go up here, and we want to set this now to maybe 1 inch or 1/2 inch or something. We can click on that side. So delete that, run that again. Let's go 10 inches here. And now we can just get the move tool out and rotate this and kind of line it up so that it's semi going in the same direction here, parallel with those edges. Now we can delete these faces, or delete that triangulation there, which will delete those faces. And we can explode that group, and all we got to do is get in here and connect these edges here and then do a triangulation. And we'll rebuild those with quad tools here. And you can even pull this out if you wanted here, but so now let's group that square, and let's grab this. We don't have to run that polyline divider. You can just leave it as is. If you're not going to take any other branches off of it, it really doesn't matter. We just do that to try to create these squares here as a good starting point. But now let's grab this one and go to Curvy Loft, change our method, and we didn't have this one selected, so let's select that one. There we go. Say OK. And we'll get in there, we'll unsoften that, we'll cut it, and we'll delete these here like we've been doing. Oops. Paste that back in place. We can explode that. We can get in there and select that edge loop, and can even move this here and pull that out. And then we'll see when we turn on SUbD, we'll kind of create a nice little crotch there. So it's quite often what a tree will do as it flares like that. So at this point, you can continue to go and keep adding our major branches, and I'm going to show a method then how to go and populate those with smaller branches using Make Fur. And all we really need to focus on is the big ones. But at this point, we could also get in, if we have Artisan, and use some of the sculpting tools here. I really like the vertex move, and I can set that to soft here, and we can get in and increase the size here, and we can get in and manipulate some of these branches here. And we're just going to have to rebuild the quads, but oops. And you can go back and forth here between hit escape there, something's selected. And you can play with these so they're not so linear. You can also toggle from here the sculpt brush and get in, and you can sculpt here. I usually like to grab an edge loop and use Frito scale as well, and just a regular Frito scale, and pull out some of these edge loops here for things like the trunk. And we could do that with vertex move as well, and add some variation here. And if we hold Shift, we'll kind of lock things to be moving perpendicular here. Something like that. Go ahead and toggle SUbD on again, and we've got to rebuild these quads here, but starting to look a little more like a tree. And let's just rebuild the quads here, and then I'll take all the sculpted triangulations there and turn them back into quads for the whole tree. So we'll toggle SUbD again. And there we go. So the other thing I wanted to mention is you can also, if you wanted to make a really big branch, you can also do that with 4 of these here. And you would have to, either with vertex tools, you could go make planar with those, pull that out, delete those edges there, get in there with draw along, and delete those hidden edges first. Now we can come in here and set our work plane. Offset that. It looks a little bit too extreme there, and just connect these, or also use split tools here. We can just select that whole face, and that'll go around and make all the connections there that we need to keep this good quads. And we'll group that, triple click on this, and we want to put let's go maybe 2 inches down on this end. And let's do maybe a 4-inch somewhere in here. And that changed them both to so let's do a 2-inch here, and then run it again, and then we'll set it to 4. Do that about there. And we can select that as well. Triple click on our edge, select those, run Curvy Loft, and that'll keep it from tapering until it gets to this point, so it doesn't taper too much. And change our method, accept that. Let's grab this and unsoften it. And I can tell already this is going to be kind of a square looking branch here, and we could try to get in. First thing we need to do is explode this, and let's get rid of everything else here. Get rid of those, paste that, now explode it. Now we can grab a ring selection there, or loop selection, and remove it, and make sure you use this and not delete. And it should take some of the squareness out. Let's run SUbD and see what that looks like. So it doesn't look too bad. We've still got decent quads there. And I'm going to do maybe a ring selection here. And let's pull this out here in this direction. Something like this. Add kind of a little knot there. And might even want to get in here, grab that, and use Frito scale, and I'm going to scale this up, do a loop there and scale that up. And I'm going to pull this up here. loop it first. And there we go. Let's go ahead and throw SUbD on that again. Now we can see that looks pretty good there, that branching. Turn that off and get in here, and we could grab a section like this, and we can move this up to the top. And see, we've pulled this out here. So I'm going to pull this down and maybe snap it back here. There we can see where we are off over here. So I'm just going to get in with vertex tools and grab those verts there and just collapse them. So I'm just using merge vertices there to do that. And should be pretty good here on just the top. Grab that, and you can use vertex tools and hold control, come up and add a couple more here, and we should be straight there. And we can get in here now and start to taper these in using Frito scale. And come up here, hit the space bar, and then Frito scale, and we can do that, and then toggle back to vertex tools, come up, hit the space bar, go Frito scale, toggle back, come up, space bar, Frito scale, and then call vertex tools again. And let's run SUbD one more time, and we'll call that good for this lesson here. And I hope that was helpful, not only for trees, but for other areas where you want to make smooth quad junctions between opposing angles, be it tubing or anything along those lines. Those methods will work, and it's just being mindful of those initial how you're coming off of that initial quad there. If you do need to make it smaller, you can go ahead and offset that. And we were adding that segmentation to our initial spline to try to create those extra quad segments, so we could have a nice area there to come off of. And I see we have a little bit of an issue here. That was probably from sculpting or messing around with I see it there, messing around with the artisan. And let's get in here and just delete that edge, delete that edge, come out there, come out here, and let's just rebuild these quads here. And I'm going to grab this ring here, and we're going to move that along that direction there using move along. And I can't speak highly enough of move along and draw along, and I don't think they are as used as they should be, and I don't think they quite caught on just because they're such a embedded native tool. But they really come in handy. It's essentially a work plane and a draw and move tool all in one. So it saves so much time for somebody that used a lot of work planes in the past to help with the accuracy in SketchUp. And it solves a big gap in SketchUp, being that we don't have the quad viewport like some other softwares where you can have the top view and the left view and the right view and then look at everything in unison, so you could go and make those fine movements and lock things to certain viewpoints. And they really help in that area with SketchUp being limited to only having one viewport here. So a little bit of tweaking there should have fixed that. And we'll call SUbD again. And again, I'm just using my keyboard shortcuts here. And I'm not going to dumb it down for you guys. Everybody should be using keyboard shortcuts, and the videos that I'm making are for more intermediate users. So we're just going to do it the way we do it and keep it moving. So in the next video, we'll come back here and a little more fixing here. And take some branching off the very top of the tree and get in here, add some secondary branching, and then for the tertiary branching, the third level, again, we use make for that, and it's a nice quick and easy way. Maybe create one or two different smaller branching sets and distribute them based on their axis point over these primary and secondary branches here. So I hope that was helpful again, and we'll see you in the next video.